Welcome to This Explainer. I am so absolutely thrilled you're here today. Fun fact, in the few seconds it just took me to say that sentence, tens of thousands of crypto transactions were processed worldwide. It's literally nonstop. Today, we're unpacking a topic that might sound a bit like science fiction, but it is actively reshaping our wallets right now. How blockchain is completely transforming both the speed and the privacy of our financial transactions. Now, if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by crypto jargon, take a deep breath. We are keeping this incredibly simple, designed perfectly for absolute beginners.
Okay, let's quickly check out our roadmap for today. First, what is blockchain? Second, faster payments. Third, the privacy paradox. Fourth, privacy coins. Fifth, rules and risks. And finally, number 6, the future. Let's start right at the foundation with Section 1, what is blockchain?
To understand why we even need this technology in the first place, we have to start with a highly relatable, everyday frustration. Why do international bank transfers take days? Seriously, think about it. You can send an email around the world in a literal millisecond, but moving your own money takes almost a week? It's crazy. And it's because traditional financial systems are incredibly clunky. They rely on old technology, manual checks, and just a whole lot of red tape.
So how do we actually fix that? Well, enter the blockchain. Basically, it's a decentralized, distributed ledger that records transactions securely across many computers. Now, if you're totally new to this, just think of a ledger as a giant record book of transactions. But instead of one single bank holding the only copy of this book in a locked vault, thousands of computers around the world all hold identical copies of this book at the exact same time. It's incredibly secure because you can't just hack one computer to change the record retroactively. You'd have to hack every single one of them simultaneously, which is virtually impossible.
Let's break down how this works in real time. It's just a simple 1, 2, 3 journey. Step 1, a transaction is initiated. Say you decide to send money to a friend. Step 2, that transaction gets grouped together with other recent transactions into a digital block. And step 3, that block is permanently locked and added to the chain of all the previous blocks. And honestly, that's it. That's the whole shebang. That is why it's called a blockchain. You don't need any complex cryptography degrees to understand that base concept. It's literally just blocks of data chained together.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 2, faster payments, no middlemen.
This really highlights the core problem and solution we're talking about today. In traditional banking, when you send money internationally, it hops from your bank to a clearinghouse to a correspondent bank, across a centralized database, and finally down to the receiver's bank. Those are the intermediaries, the middlemen, and they slow everything down to a crawl. But with blockchain, it's peer-to-peer and decentralized. It cuts out those middlemen entirely. Because it's a direct connection, the processing time plummets from days down to a matter of minutes, or even just seconds.
Because of this direct peer-to-peer setup, cryptocurrencies built on blockchain technology, like Bitcoin and XRP, enable truly global transfers without ever needing to rely on a traditional bank. Imagine sending funds across the globe directly from your digital wallet to someone else's. It drastically reduces both the time you wait and the fees associated with the transfer. It's direct, it's unbelievably fast, and it's completely borderless.
Next up is Section 3, the privacy paradox.
Okay, so remember how I said everyone on the network has a copy of that digital record book? That means every single transaction is entirely visible to the public. It's basically like a glass vault. So how on earth is it private? Well, the secret is pseudonymity. This means using a fictional name or address. Think of it like using a screen name on an internet forum. Everyone can see exactly what the user Gamer99 posted, but they don't know that Gamer99 is actually John Smith from Ohio. The transaction details are totally public, but your real-world identity is not directly tied to them.
XRP is actually a fantastic example of this. When you transact using XRP, the system uses these long, random-looking alpha-numeric addresses rather than asking for your personal info. Unlike traditional banking, where every single penny is tracked in a centralized database and tied directly to your verified real-world identity, these alphanumeric addresses provide a really robust layer of privacy. You can safely transact without broadcasting your actual name to the whole world.
But for some people, a simple screen name just isn't quite enough. Moving right along to Section 4, privacy coins and trade-offs. Now, what's really fascinating here is the massive difference between standard crypto and what we call privacy coins, like Monero and Z-Cash. While standard crypto is pseudonymous, meaning the transaction amount and the history are still totally public, privacy coins use highly advanced cryptographic techniques to hide absolutely everything. The transaction amount is hidden,
The sender and receiver are hidden, the transaction history is hidden. They completely obscure these details from public view, upgrading your privacy from just a simple screen name to absolute invisibility.
But, in technology, there is always a catch. There's a little race happening here between absolute speed and absolute privacy. Standard networks that rely on basic pseudonymity, like XRP, boast a blistering speed of just 3 to 5 seconds. But all that heavy, complex encryption required for privacy coins, it really slows the system down. Monero takes about 2 minutes to confirm a block, and Z-Cash takes around 2.5 minutes. So it's a fundamental trade-off. The more deeply you hide the data, the longer it takes the network to process the whole thing.
Which naturally leads us to Section 5, Rules, Risks, and Challenges. As you can probably imagine, total financial secrecy makes governments a bit nervous. There's intense and increasing regulatory scrutiny right now as authorities try to prevent money laundering and other illicit activities. It's this massive, ongoing debate. How do we balance a user's legitimate desire for privacy with the government's absolute need for compliance? Furthermore, that basic pseudonymity we talked about earlier, it isn't completely foolproof. Advanced analytics tools exist today that can potentially de-anonymize users by studying transaction patterns and correlating them with outside data sources. So users really have to remain vigilant and fully understand the limitations of the privacy they're relying on.
Finally, let's look ahead to Section 6, the future of payment privacy.
So where is all of this going? Well, the demand for both speed and privacy is only going to grow. We're currently seeing incredible innovations in decentralized finance platforms, often called DeFi, that are building even more sophisticated privacy-centric protocols. Consumers are really waking up to how their data is used, and they're demanding secure private payment options. In fact, this consumer demand is becoming so strong that we might soon see traditional financial institutions and regulators actively adopting blockchain privacy features within everyday banking services, simply just to keep up with the technology.
Which leaves us with a critical question for you to ponder today. We've seen that right now, you often have to choose between a transaction that takes 3 seconds or one that is completely invisible to the public. So, as digital money continues to evolve, and as you think about your own personal finances, will your future wallet prioritize absolute speed or absolute secrecy? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope you found this breakdown helpful, and keep exploring.